Hi. Okay, so happy Thursday. We're almost done with week 3. Thank you for sticking with me and being flexible with me. You know, I will always be flexible with you. Thank you so much for doing your work throughout the week. We are almost done and to our 3-day weekend. Now, yesterday you told me your triumphs and your struggles with Schoology so far. And on Tuesday, we talked about expressions. So I'd like to get back to expressions. So remember, expressions are phrases without an equal sign, right? So we also have to know key words and phrases that are used because sometimes we will have to write expressions or we will see word problems and we will have to understand what those word problems actually mean. So we need to make sure before we move forward that when we're reading word problems, we know what they're talking about. So let's take these notes. So some other words that mean addition or plus are the words some, total, plus, which is my favorite, ooh, they like to say this one, increased by. And then more than. Now there's others. If you come up with some, I would love for you to tell me. Bonus points. Let's talk about some other words for subtraction. So I'm going to just move this over a little bit. Make sure you can see that. Okay. All right. So some other words for subtraction and some words that they like to use for subtraction. A big one, let's use it maybe a different color for subtraction. They like to use the word difference. D-I. Another one they really like to use, well, I like to use minus. What about take away? Or decreased by. What about subtracted from? And then less than. I know it's added to the bottom. Like something like 10 less than 5. Well, 10 less than 5. Let's subtract. But those are a little tricky, so I want you to put a star next to less than and subtracted from, because you have to pay attention to the order that says, okay? So 10 subtracted from 5 really means 5 minus 10, which is negative 5. 10 less than 5 again means 5 minus 10. 5 less than 10 means 10 minus 5. Okay, so you've got to pay attention to how they say it in the order. Okay? Now remember, best part about a video, pause if you need to write these down. And you know Mr. Franco wants you to write these notes down, okay? Let's zoom up. Let's talk about multiplication and division. I like that color that I was using, but. Okay, so when we're reading word problems, what's the one that we all know? Multiplication times. But what else? This is a tricky one. Of. Put a star next to it. What about product? The product of 2 and 3 means 2 times 3. And then these are some of the ones that we see sometimes. Would be the words like twice. So twice a number means 2 times a number. Or double, which again means double a number, 2 times a number. But we could also see generally, what about triple? Oh, let me spell triple right. Yeah. And again, if you come up with some other ones, let me know. Pause if you need to, and then let's talk about division. So last up, division. Division can kind of be tricky, and the words that they use for division are tricky, okay? So definitely pay attention, because a lot of times they like to trick us up with division. So they use this word, quotient. Quotient. We're going to add that one to our vocabulary if it's not already there, because I promise you, that one trips me up all the time. That's why I always put it first. Quotient. Or separate. Oh, I was going to write, and you may want to write yourself like a little like separated, because sometimes they talk about it like in the past tense. So I'm going to put ed, because sometimes it's separated. And then the one that we like, but the one that they probably normally won't use, divided by. And then, okay, half. When we hear the word half, what do you think of? What do we don't like? Fractions, right? We normally think of half, 1/2, right? 1 divided by 2. Remember, this line right here is the division line, or I like to call, when we get into equations, our big fat line. No, that is not our. Scratch that. Sorry, it's late at night. Ugh. Our division line. Remember, forget like I never even said that. Okay, so half or halved. So I'm going to put an ed again, because sometimes they say like it in the past. So half and halved are the same thing. What about a third? So a third means 1/3. So again, fraction. Fraction means 1 divided by 3. But it could also be, usually a third isn't in the past, but hopefully not. Pause, rewind, I'm moving on. Now, these are tricky, but we talked about them when we did our order of operations. We talked about parentheses. So now when we it's hard to think about when we would actually have to write parentheses for ourselves to understand that as a word or expression. So the words that they use for parentheses, and usually they look like this. It'll say times the sum of. So I'm going to put that in quotation marks. The sum of. Quotation, okay? Quotations. Usually you're going to see the sum of. When you see times the sum of, parentheses mean everything on the outside that's touching the parentheses is going to be multiplying by everything on the inside. That's why it says times the sum of, because the sum is everything inside of those parentheses. So this is the sum of our parentheses. Now, the sum could also be the difference, because whatever the product or the sum of could also be the difference of, because they could be subtraction or division. So that's why it also could say times. Ooh, ugly. Sorry. Bad writing, Mr. Franco. Times the difference of is slash between, the difference between. So those are like the two top that you're going to see. Either the sum of, or the difference of, or the difference between. As soon as you see those words, you have to ingrain it in your brain that they're talking about parentheses. Difference of slash between. Remember I said, I'm going to try and make these notes as short as possible. And again, I'm going to work on my writing. I'm sorry. Getting down to the wire down here. And last, turnaround phrases. So that means, again, when I was talking about earlier, when we start those two next to subtraction. So I'm going to, if you need to pause, pause. But remember we talked about subtracted from and less than or decreased by, and how it really depended on the way that it was phrased? Turnaround phrases is very much like that. And so turnaround phrases, less than and subtracted from. So, pause. If you notice, I did my stars in light blue, and I wrote them again down here because there are turnaround phrases. Remember, 5 less than 10 means 10 minus 5. 10 less than 5 means 5 minus 10. Turnaround phrases, okay? Subtracted from. So write yourself a note, do whatever you need to do to remind yourself that that's what it is. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a real short video where we're going to take some word sentences that they give us, and we're actually going to write some expressions, and then you're going to do a couple on your own, and we'll be done with Thursday, and then we'll be on to Friday. Bye, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Let me know if you need anything. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Remember, I want to know how you're doing. Let me know. Do you need anything? Let me know. And I want you to know that you do matter to me. Okay? Take care of yourself. And until we meet again, I'll talk to you all later. Bye, guys.